let's go to Lauren Boebert and Representative Ilhan Omar.
Oh, let's.
So, on the news, they have been calling it, MSNBC hosts and anchors refer to it as a feud.
Oh, wow.
There is a feud that is happening between Lauren Boebert and Representative Ilhan. You notice that I don't refer to that woman as anybody's representative, because she should have never been in Congress.
Yeah.
If they had some type of, elite testing, she wouldn't have made it in. Nonetheless, language matters. When you refer to, let's say, the Tulsa massacre as a massacre instead of a race riot, you have a different presentation of who the victims are, right? Who was being terrorized, who was slaughtered, that it wasn't a clash, right? When that's the other word that they've been using in the media. There's a clashing between, the freshman members of Congress, these younger members of Congress. There's a clash. No, there is not. Right? Because that would take actually two sides, two forces to create a clash. They would take two people going back and forth to create a feud. Lauren Boebert is harassing Representative Ilhan Omar. She is placing a target on her back. She is making jokes to people with guns who are itching to use them. That she is evil with a black heart, she says.
Yeah, her and Rashida Tlaib, black-hearted women.
Black-hearted, evil women.
Yeah.
And what do white men with guns do to black-hearted, evil women? They've been burning them at the stake since the 1600s. This is what they are doing. And so I'm just like, again, I don't why is the mainstream media so reckless with the language that they use when they're discussing what is happening right now?
I think it's not just media. I think every single institution in America, including media institutions, are ill-prepared to confront and deal with the reality that you and I have talked about, and you've been talking about on your show for years, about the reclamation project of white supremacy. They just don't see it. They don't have the language. They don't have the history. It doesn't affect them. So they might care, but they don't really care because it makes for good ratings and business is good, and they don't want to disturb the well, and they don't see race, which means they don't see racism. It doesn't affect their wives. It doesn't affect their community. It doesn't affect their children. So they can afford to be zoologists, observers, these alleged neutral umpires who just call balls and strikes. But as you mentioned, framing matters. Language matters. The double standards are felt acutely when this happens because I cannot imagine Ilhan Omar or AOC or Rashida Tlaib or Cori Bush or Jamal Bowman ever, saying these horrible things against Boebert for being a Christian. She's a Christian supremacist. She's a Christian terrorist. Look at these Christian right-wing terrorists in this country making up bullshit lies, making jokes about her being a friggin' Christian fascist because she has guns. That's what she said, right? The whole wink, wink, nudge, nudge was, she doesn't have a backpack. What does that mean? Muslim woman wears hijab, is a terrorist. And so... Literally Marjorie Taylor Greene has chased around AOC outside the Capitol House, yelling at her. And let's not forget, just like what's the one, the token that they got? Yes, I said token. Winsome Sears in Virginia. She had. Can I say that? Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, of course, you can say it.
Yeah.
As long as it's the truth, you can say it.
All of our communities have the token cultural validators. Marjorie Taylor Greene had that image of her with sunglasses, with the assault rifle, and behind her were the photos of the squad. What does that mean? Goes back to terror. So I cannot imagine the squad ever seeing that getting away with. I'm old enough to remember that Ilhan Omar did this tweet about AIPAC and Benjamins, and we're still talking about it. Meanwhile, Madison Cawthorn, after the Rittenhouse verdict, looked at the camera and sent a message out, a video out to his followers, literally saying, and I'm quoting him, "Be armed and dangerous." Can you imagine, Danielle, if Ilhan and AOC looked at the camera and told their followers, "Be armed and dangerous," after, I don't know, a police shooting that killed a black or brown person? What would this country do specifically? What would the framing be? And what would our colleagues in the media, how would they describe it?
How would they describe it? They would turn them into the biggest thugs, the thugs, extremists, radicals, the American ISIS. I mean, the way it would take not even a moment for them to be expelled from Congress, right? Because you see, that would happen to them.
Democrats would throw them under the bus.
Throw them under the bus. They would be gone.
And
Never
they already
to
throw
run
them under
for
the
any
bus.
officer.
They already throw them under the bus. They literally, see, it was the latest article I wrote, which was how the squad, 4 women of color, well, probably now 5 with Cori Bush and now Jamal Bowman, people of color, progressive, outspoken, who say crazy things about income inequality and racial justice and police reform. And, some of them champion defund the police. The ecosystem of the right wing has very wisely used the squad as a human pinata and the boogeyman to paint anyone who's liberal and Democrat as these radicals. And like we talked about last time, Democrats like Carville and Spanberger and other quote-unquote moderates have internalized that language and that wokeness, thrown the squad under the bus, which inflames death threats against them. Meanwhile, again, it goes back to framing. I've always said, and people, many of the same people who criticize you, I said Bobart, Gates, Green, Gosar are the future, the mainstream future of the Republican Party. And people said, no, they're nuts. McConnell is, McCarthy as well. So far, we're recording this in the middle of the week. Bobart still has not been criticized by Republican leadership. Green has still not been criticized. And Gosar, who tweeted a violent anime threat against AOC, that was just last week, folks. 2 weeks ago, has not been criticized. What does that mean? That they are central to the Republican Party, mainstream, accepted and condoned. You do not see that framing. And earlier today, Green said on Steve Bannon's show, we are not the fringe, we are the base.
And I'm like, again, with the Bond villain, I am looking dead into the camera on a microphone telling you who the fuck I am and what I'm doing. And everybody's just like, do you think they're the base? Do you think they matter to the base? They literally just told you.
Yeah, we're like, I am Blofeld. I have a giant laser pointing at Earth. A Jewish space laser that I've hijacked from the Jews, I think, that have caused wildfires. And people, that's a throwback because Marjorie Taylor Greene literally believes that Jews are responsible for space lasers that caused the wildfires, which is why she got censured and stripped of her communities from the Democrats in February. But Republicans gave her a standing ovation. And yeah, it's like the title credit. It's like, that the James Bond movie where there's like the opening scene, the first 10-minute action scene. Then there's that musical credit where it's like naked women in gold and James Bond like shooting at them. Like right before then, like Blofeld or the villain says, hey, James Bond, let's just cut to the chase. Let's save $200 million in 2 hours of screen time. Here's my plan. And James Bond is like, I think you have economic anxiety. Let's spend 2 hours debating this. Let's bring on Chris Christie to debate this. That's America right now.
I think you have education anxiety now, right? It was economic, it's education. Let's talk about it. That is exactly the response. It's like they're telling you, and I keep thinking to myself, when will we stop in the media referring to the Republican Party as like this normal political party? Yeah. Like, I keep hearing, we're on Capitol Hill and the Republicans are trying to gum up the works again. And it's like,
it's like a New York Times headline from yesterday in discussion about how they're trying to literally cheat when it comes to redistricting. They're like, Republicans are trying to, are trying to reformat. I'm trying to get to the headline, but it was such a benign headline using language and framing, obscuring their literally their malevolent plan as they're redistricting, such as in Ohio, to strip black voters of their voting power to the point where the elections are rigged. Just like in Wisconsin, right? Like even if Democrats win the majority of votes, thanks to gerrymandering and redistricting and state legislatures that are owned by now well, I didn't say owned by Koch brothers, but run by Republicans, it's rigged. Like, you could have 57% of the vote, you'll still lose.